Hey folks, it's Jared Manninen from the website TahoeTrailGuide.com. Today's high was a whopping 28 degrees Fahrenheit here in Tahoe. Quite chilly for Tahoe, in fact. We haven't had any new snow since the snowpocalypse of this past holiday season, and since that time, which has been about a month now, we've kind of gone through this perpetual freeze-thaw cycle where the nighttime lows are about mid-20s, sometimes down into the teens, and the daytime temperatures are mid to higher 30s, sometimes low 40s. And that creates this really stable snowpack, but it also makes that snow hard as cement in a lot of areas. Really gets icy when you're at a major thoroughfare for other skiers, snowshoers, dog walkers, that sort of thing. Those sections can be super icy, and it can be super frustrating to try to even ski in them because the surface is just so choppy and slick. A lot of times it's terrifying when you have to go downhill in those kind of conditions. I've received similar questions by more than one person over the years about dealing with that kind of condition where you're in a pretty narrow track that's been paved, laid out, tracked out. Maybe it's the width of a snowmobile track, and it's icy and it has some sidewalls that are, a few inches to upwards of a foot tall, and it's hard to do a snowplow in that short space. So it's hard to be safe when skiing in those conditions. And yeah, I think today just going to give you a couple of my recommendations. I don't imagine they're earth-shattering or groundbreaking or anything like that. You've probably considered some of them, but maybe there's one or two in there that you hadn't considered that can maybe help you have a better time going out when the snow is pretty icy and firm and hard-packed. Keep in mind that when we're talking about all these tracked out areas, I'm talking about off track and off trail, backcountry, cross country skiing. I'm not talking about skiing at a groomed resort. Those trails, yeah, they may be icy in the morning and slushy in the afternoon if you end up with that spring-like conditions, but because they're groomed, they're just way more predictable. So I'm not really talking about those. I'm talking about when you just go and break your own trail or go into your local forest or state park, and you have all these social trails laid out by other cross-country skiers and snowshoers and that sort of thing. The first and most obvious thing that I recommend, if you find yourself in a situation where that social trail is super icy, it's just really hard and choppy, there's little divots and potholes that you can catch edges in constantly, my recommendation is just don't use those trails anymore. I know that's easier said than done for me because I am surrounded by national forest everywhere, so I can go pull over and go find my own stash of relatively untracked snow. But that would be my recommendation, is just avoid those trails. It's dangerous when you have hilly sections and it's just straight ice and there is no way to effectively slow down. I recommend doing the half snowplow if that's a possibility, which means if you cheat an edge of that trail and then just snowplow with one of your skis, but a lot of times that's not even an option. Maybe if the snow isn't complete ice along the trail, you can run one of your skis in that snow off the trail, and that can kind of drag you a little bit slower as well. But realistically, if you're in a situation where there is all that tracked out social trails, just avoid those trails and go find your own snow. Another recommendation that I have is just dial back your expectations. Maybe that should be the first recommendation, really. When it's icy and crusty snow and potentially dangerous scenarios like that, I just really dial back my expectations as to what I'm going to accomplish in the ski session that I'm about to embark on. Usually that entails coming up with a plan to do some small bit of training or exploration. Sometimes I just treat it as exploration. I happen to be out on skis walking through the forest, and if I do find some good snow, I'll play on it. If it's a hill, I'll practice some turns. If it's just a flat, maybe I'll do a little bit of diagonal striding. But I really just try to dial back those expectations, because chances are you're not going to be able to travel as far as you'd like, or if you do, it's going to be exhausting trying to travel long distances because of all those icy patches that you're going to be getting into. As long as you can practice some small aspect of your skills and techniques, or just have a good time, that's worth it in my book to get out and do. But again, dial back your expectations as to what you're going to accomplish in that experience, or what kind of experience you're going to have. A couple technical solutions to the problem could be, if you are going to be in really firm and hard packed snow and you have the option, choose a skinnier ski. They're just more manageable to deal with on firm snow because it takes less effort to engage the edges, and that engagement of edges could simply be preventing your ski from laterally slipping and sliding as you're trying to go in a straight line. I find that with wide skis on firm snow, it's just really challenging and frustrating because they just want to slide all over. And because cross-country ski boots, regardless of whether or not they're a backcountry variety with a little bit more support, they're still pretty soft. And with those wide skis, it's just hard to manage edges on really firm snow. You could also consider just double poling the entire way if you are faced with flat, firm, and fast conditions instead of trying to diagonal stride. I've done that over frozen lakes and meadows where it's just too icy on top, and it's really aggravating trying to keep the skis tracking straight because of all that ice. So I'll just double pole the whole way. Go in a later part of the day, the second half if at all possible, so that the snow, if the temperatures are favorable for it, can soften up a little bit. In spring skiing, that's one of the key elements, is waiting for the snow to soften up. However, in spring, it's more like a window between 10 and 12 in the morning, whereas, middle of the winter, you're talking maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon when that snow might soften up a little bit. Also, if you have the option, choose either a north or northeast aspect of terrain, because chances are that is not getting baked by the day sun. It's probably being protected more so than a south facing or southwest facing aspect, which is getting baked and cooked all day long. And then you end up with all that icy condition once that snow starts to firm up at night. So skinny skis later in the day, and choosing a different aspect of terrain that's protected by the sun. You could make the choice as to whether or not you want to go to an open field or into the forest. Into the forest, I find it tends to be really crusty and hard directly underneath and adjacent to trees, because at one point those tree branches had snow being held in them, and then they all melted out and fell on the ground, and then created all these little ice chunks that just land all around the trees. So an open area will be getting cooked from the sun, but it's at least going to be more uniform of a surface, just because it's all just open field at that point. And then the last idea is not going to be a popular one, but if safety is paramount and we want to travel back home to our loved ones without injury, just consider taking your skis off and walking. And if you want to be even more safe, consider carrying with you some foot traction devices like micro spikes to put on your ski boots, so that if you do have to walk, you can do so as safely as possible. Okay, folks, that's about all I have. If you have any better ideas, suggestions, or recommendations, post them in the comment section below for dealing with icy and hard-packed snow. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out TahoeTrailGuide.com. And if you feel compelled to contribute in a financial way to the health and longevity of Tahoe Trail Guide, as well as this YouTube channel, I have a Patreon account as well as a PayPal option for making a one-time tip. Just want to give a shout out to all my Patreon subscribers. You guys are the best. I really appreciate your continued support. Take care, everyone.